Tonight we heard from the President delivering his State of the Union address. And I think many of us were hoping that now that the President has gained re-election, looking forward to a full 4 years, that he would have the freedom to set forth some specific proposals, kind of unfettered of the politics from the campaign. But I was somewhat disappointed. I have stated that the number one issue for us as a Congress and really as a country right now is to get our fiscal affairs in order for us to be strong economically, in order to really be working towards real job creation. We have got to address our debt and our fiscal issues. And unfortunately, I didn't hear the President speak clearly to those issues. He didn't address how we're going to grapple with this looming specter of sequestration, which is coming at us in just about 10 days now. Well, he did mention the word, and he did say that this was not a measure that we want to move to. It would have helped us, I think, if he had given his own proposal and guidance in terms of how, if we're not going to move forward with the sequestration, what is that alternative? And we didn't hear that proposal. When we're talking about dealing with a $16 trillion debt, I think most of us would concur that we do have to have a balanced approach. And while he said balanced approach, he talked about increasing revenues, specifically from those the wealthier Americans, looking to increase their taxes, to take more from them. But we didn't really hear how we're going to reduce our spending. I think most of us would agree when we talk about a comprehensive solution, it is a mix of three things. It is a mix of decreased spending. There have to be some revenues, because you can't cut your way out of this, but you also can't tax your way out of this. But we also must deal with the mandatory spending side. We must deal with the entitlements. So how we build that together, that wasn't clear in the President's speech. I was pleased that he chose to focus a relatively decent-sized portion of his address on the issue of energy. When we talk about jobs in this country, the real job growth that we have seen of late has been in the fact that we have an energy sector that is truly booming. We have moved from an era when our energy resources were all deemed a scarcity. We are now in that world where we're looking at abundant supplies, and what a difference that makes to our economy. I think the President recognized that. I was pleased to hear that. I was pleased to hear him say that he thought we could do more on the oil and gas side, but that we were going to have to deal with the regulatory permitting. I think that that's a positive. He also suggested that one thing that we need to do to advance our technologies that deliver us to that next generation of clean energy, or in the President's case, he was speaking to how we power the transportation sector. He proposed an energy security trust. I have suggested a fund very similar to what I think the President spoke to today. I've stated for years that we should take a portion of the revenues that we receive from the rents, the royalties, the leases from our federal lands, whether they be from ANWR or NPRA or OCS, and put them in a renewable energy development fund. So I think the President and I are actually tracking on that. Of course, we'll have to see what it is that he actually proposes, but I do think that it is something that could help us move to that cleaner energy source. He kind of left the door open for discussion about a bipartisan approach to how we deal with the issue of climate. I am one who doesn't believe that you have the legislative support for a cap-and-trade proposal or a carbon tax. He took us back to the days of McCain and Lieberman. I'm not sure that we have the support for that either, but I do think that we can do more to reduce our emissions. Again, the way you do that is not through a command and control approach. It's through putting the federal dollars towards the research and development that can build us in the direction of these breakthrough technologies that, for instance, we're seeing in the world of shale gas, and the transformational difference that we've seen in our country because of that. The President called on us to do some other initiatives. He spoke today of the Senate's passage of the Violence Against Women Act and urged the House to take up the Senate-passed bill. That was something that I applauded and stood for. I do support that, and I think it is something that the House clearly should take up, and we should move on that. There were some other initiatives that I think, I'll be honest with you, caused me some concern. The President spoke about many different kinds of investment, whether it's investment in infrastructure, whether it is investment in training, whether it's education. But so much of what he spoke to, what I was hearing was that government is the answer to our problems, whether it's early childhood education, whether it's higher education, whether it's infrastructure, on the energy side as well, housing. There were so many different areas where, again, the proposal was we the government will be the one to provide the answer. I'm not convinced that the government is the answer to all of our woes. I am one who happens to believe that one of the better things that we can do to move this economy along, to create jobs, is for the government to get out of the way and allow us to get to work, allow that free market, the private sector to really be the innovator, be the one that spurs along the development that we need. So I think you're going to see some disagreement, some parting of the ways on some of that. And then clearly the closing of the speech, where the President called on the Congress to act as it related to gun legislation that will likely see its way to the Senate, perhaps to the House as well, calling for a vote. I do support the need for a full conversation within the Congress, around the country, about how we deal with gun violence, how we work to ensure that our citizens, whether they be in our schools or in our theaters or out on the streets, that there is a level of safety and a protection for us all. And I encourage and I welcome that. But I also believe very strongly that the Second Amendment is an amendment that we guard and we protect very carefully, particularly those of us in Alaska, where there is clearly a need and a desire to ensure that our families have a level of protection. That again, that Second Amendment helps to reassure us. So there will be conversations. They will be important and necessary conversations. And how those will unfold remains to be seen. So overall, if I had to give the President a grade on the speech tonight, I would say it was not one of his better speeches. I did not think that the enthusiasm from members of Congress, whether they be House or Senate or Republican or Democrat, was that warm tonight. And it's not that has to be the barometer, but I think it was telling that there was some hesitancy in the members' reactions on many of the suggestions that came from the President tonight in his annual State of the Union. So we will see whether the statements tonight translate into action, into concrete proposals, whether he will take them before the Congress and move on them, or whether they will be yet words in a speech that will be tucked away until we study them again for the following year. But it's the end of a day, and we'll see where the President takes the comments from here.